Welcome to this Moving Panels One Shot. Let's have a nerdy little conversation, and today we're going to talk about what we have planned for year 3 of the show. Happy Labor Day, everybody. Labor Day always marks the transition of a new year of Moving Panels. Man, I can't believe it's been 2 years. Thank you, everyone who has supported the show. My guests and I love doing this. We hope that you have been enjoying each and every episode. And just, again, thank you. Thank you so much. So I want to take today, this is going to be short. I just want to talk about what's to come. I've been planning episodes since summer, and I am very excited for what we have in store. We're going to start things off this month, September. September is now all going to be TV shows. And we're going to kick things off next week as my wife, Bethany, is the co-host as we talk about the first few episodes of She-Hulk on Disney+. If you haven't watched that, check that out. It's a great show. Very different from what you've probably been used to with the MCU. And you're going to hear what we have to say about that. Then we get into October. It's Shocktober. I mean, every podcast, every show always has the special Halloween-themed episodes for October. And we're not going to be any different. We're going to kick things off in October with James Brooks from Interview with a Horror Virgin podcast. He's going to join me for a watch-along episode of a very creepy episode of Batman the Animated Series, so you don't want to miss that one. Then the dapper Southern gent and horror aficionado as well, along with James, Blake Fowler, is going to join me right before his wedding weekend for the 2007 vampire flick that probably made people not ever want to live in Alaska, 30 Days of Night. Then looking ahead at Christmas, we're going to cover our first episode of Lois and Clark with their Christmas episode Season's Greetings, which featured Sherman Hemsley from The Jeffersons, and this is going to be a fun one. As for upcoming one-shots, well, Ruby, my daughter, has started watching the MCU. And so we're going to get her reactions as she finishes each phase. We'll sit down and record with her and discover what she liked, what she didn't like, what didn't click. And I'll discover whether or not these movies maintain the magic they held. And we'll see what Ruby's thoughts are as she goes through. She is going through it in release order of the MCU. She's even watching the one-shots that Marvel put out. Those aren't really in a particular order, but we're watching all of that. So we're actually currently in Phase 2, so we already have the Phase 1 episode one-shot recorded, and we'll get that out to you. And soon she'll finish Phase 2, and we'll get that one recorded as well. I've also been in contact with a couple of TikTokers that I hope to do interviews with, so fingers crossed that will go through. If you're not on TikTok, get on TikTok. Great content out there. I mean, there are people with so much knowledge about really everything. Whether you're talking about comic book TikTok or not, there's so much out there. So much comedy, so much information. It's amazing what you can learn from TikTok. I mean, YouTube as well. I actually fixed part of my truck thanks to YouTube. So it's always exciting. But I also plan to do some comic book reviews as we go. You know, I'm reading these comics, might as well share my thoughts on it. Though I gotta admit, I usually only have time to read the comics that I need to prep for the show. But every now and then I get another comic book read. And so hopefully I'll get some more comic book reviews out there. We may also have some current news. You know, we just discussed the DC stuff at Comic-Con pretty recently. And the craziness is continuing with the HBO Discovery merger. We also have D23 coming up, actually next weekend. And there's always exciting news that seems to come from the world of comic books and movies and TV shows. And so we will do our best to keep you on top of that. Whatever we can't do on the podcast, of course, follow us on social media to get that content. And it's just, man, there's so much out there. It's funny that when you think that you're going to start a podcast, you start to wonder, is there enough for me to talk about? And yes, there are a lot of movies and television shows out there about comic books, but to think of all the new stuff that's happening, all the other things that pop up that just give us content, it's just crazy out there. Then next is 2023. We're just a few months shy of starting 2023, and of course Bethany and I will have another Valentine's date night episode coming in February. Of course, we were let down after a rewatch of Scott Pilgrim in our first year, and then we kind of sat awkwardly through Barbarella in year 2. So hopefully year 3 will be a charm. 3's a charm. As Bethany and I watch the recent romantic comedy Marry Me, starring Jennifer Lopez and Owen Wilson. I always enjoy that time of the year, not just for it being Valentine's, but now to have kind of this special thing between me and Bethany. It's a great thing. So I've got the MCU with my daughter Ruby. I've got the Valentine's stuff to look forward with Bethany, as well as She-Hulk next week with Bethany. And I love how I'm having my family involved. As soon as Lily gets old enough, I'm sure I'll have her on the show as well. Then in 2023, we get into our March Madness. This year, we're going to focus on Ghost Rider. We will review both of the Nicolas Cage movies. Yes, we are going to trudge through Spirit of Vengeance, but we will talk about it. We're also going to look at Ghost Rider's appearances in the animated Incredible Hulk and Fantastic Four cartoons from the 90s. Those of you like me loved growing up. And we'll look at the Robbie Reyes version of the character as it appeared on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. First time we've ever talked about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on the podcast, so that'll be kind of fun. May is now Animation Month. Get it? Animation. Thanks, Blake. We will review the first animated features from both Marvel and DC as we discuss Ultimate Avengers from Marvel and Superman Doomsday from DC. The first animated films from both of those companies. That's going to be exciting. And if that will actually lead us into June. There's actually a connection here because we always do anniversaries in June. And this is the 30th anniversary of the Death and Return of Superman storyline. Yes, I know the story started in 1992, but I say the bulk of it was in 1993, so it's the 30th anniversary. And so after we've talked about Superman Doomsday in Animation Month, then we are going to move on and talk about the rest of that storyline and the animated features that feature it, as well as the comic books. We're going to go deep. Again, we're going to look at both of the recent animated features, the death of Superman and the reign of the Supermen. We're going to break down the comics from the build-up to the death of Superman, the introduction of Doomsday, the battle with Doomsday, the whole funeral for a friend connection, the reign of Superman, and of course the return of Superman. There is so much to discuss. We can't actually contain it in the month of June, so some of it will actually bleed into July. But look, as the huge Superman fan that I am, I'm excited. We're even in the middle of all of that. We're going to cover Superman 3, starring Christopher Reeve and Richard Pryor. Now, why are we doing that one? Well, it's also the 40th anniversary of that one, so I've got to give it the love that it deserves. Probably not the best of the Superman movies. It's still better than 4, but it'll be fun to talk about. Again, I love Christopher Reeve as Superman. Richard Pryor is funny in that one. I'm not going to lie. This also is the one with the famous battle between bad Superman and Clark Kent. So you got to love that one. But I'm very excited about all of these episodes that we have coming your way. I hope you are too. And let's just make year 3 awesome. Can't believe this is happening. But let your friends know who don't already listen to the show how great it is, how much fun you enjoy listening to us. Let's build that audience, build that family that we have listening. Be sure to also check out Interview with a Horror Virgin, the 80s Flick Flashback, Pop Culture Roulette. Give them some love as well. Again, we love doing this. And so we hope you enjoy all the content that we have to bring to you. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Again, I mentioned this already, but follow the Facebook groups. It's a great community of people who are just interested in comic books, superhero movies. Same thing goes for the 80s Flick Flashback. Tim is always posting some amazing things about the 80s and movies and television shows. We also have Instagram, we have Twitter, and we have TikTok. We're out there. Just give us a follow, support our community. It's a great and wonderful thing. Thank you for 2 great years, and thanks for continuing the journey with us into year 3. On behalf of my guest hosts, Bethany, Chad, Blake, Tim, James, Nicholas, Justin, and Ruby, for Moving Panels, I'm Laramy Wells, and I'll see you on the other side of the page.
Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and listen to an 80s Flick Flashback podcast once in a while, you could miss it. Do you love movies of a certain age? Do you miss the days of VHS tapes, VCRs, and the video rental stores? Does the thought of another 80s movie being remade seem inconceivable? My name is Tim Williams. I'm the creator and host of the 80s Flick Flashback podcast. On each episode, I'm joined by guest co-hosts to discuss one of the many movies released in the 1980s. We share our first-time watch memories, our favorite scenes, and even learn some behind-the-scenes stories about the cast and crew along the way. New episodes are released every other Friday on your favorite podcasting platform. So make like a tree, get out of here, and go listen to an excellent episode of the 80s Flick Flashback podcast. The ad is over. Go home. Go.
What seems to be the problem, pal?
There's just so much pain in the world, so many issues. I don't think I can bear it.
Hell, friendo, it sounds like you could use a dose of pop culture roulette.
Pop culture roulette? What's that? Some sort of pop culture themed podcast or something?
That's right, sonny boy. When hope seems far, dive into some PCR.
But I already get my entertainment news from Variety.
Huh, that's pretty good. If you're a chucklehead, PCR gives you news you need, condensed, unfiltered, and raw, from 3 nerds who know a little something about something.
Wow, okay, sign me up.
That's the spirit. Pop Culture Roulette. New episodes every Monday, available on all major podcast directories.